Hello, once again. I'm Chris with Door County Film Festival. I'm sitting with Kurt Kraus. We've been talking with a lot of the filmmakers today. Right now, we're chatting with Ken Brosky, and he has got the feature film that we're very excited about called Closure. I'm going to let him talk about what the film's about, but it is about the closures of the two-year campuses in the UW system. So it hits home to a lot of people in this area. So this is a great film and a good conversation, I assume. We are sitting here at Base Camp, one of our sponsors for the film festival. Can't thank Joelle and Alicia enough for always being there. Those of you who know, Joelle actually is the reason there is a film festival here. He talked me into it, and so he's been kind of the silent partner all these years. Not so silent if you know Joel. But anyway, I just want to give them a thanks for always being there for us.
My mom had directed me, hey, maybe you should try a two-year school. Maybe you should save a little bit of money. You should live from home. Try to go that route. A lot of my high school friends were going there as well. And I just figured that it was a pretty good place to start. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So how do I decide which school's best for me other than, getting some gen eds out of the way and buying some time? To go and use the two-year college as a stepping stone, it was wonderful. I thought that I was in a way better position. I was way better prepared. Not only did they focus on the transition from high school to college, but also the transition from a two-year school to a four-year school.
The UW-Platteville-Richland campus will close entirely next year.
UW Green Bay is suspending in-person instruction this fall at its Marinette campus.
And also ending in-person classes for UW-Milwaukee's Washington County campus, that's in West Bend, and UW-Oshkosh's Fond du Lac campus.
The University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee announced today that its Waukesha campus will close in spring of 2025.
So without further ado, let's jump into this. Ken, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Tell us about where your background of this, the impetus of this film.
Sure. I teach. I started my teaching career at UW Richland, which is one of the two-year campuses featured in the documentary. And then I moved over to UW Rock County, which is located in Janesville. It's another two-year campus with the former UW colleges. We're now part of UW Whitewater. So when the colleges were merging, our campus was basically paired with UW Whitewater, and we sort of merged together. But we're one of the few campuses that's experienced some enrollment growth, and a lot of that has to do with demographics in Janesville and support from UW Whitewater that I think has been lacking in some of the other areas in the state. And then, some very dynamic programming. And so when I found out early this March that UW Waukesha was going to be closing, I kind of put all of my creative projects on hold, and I started really thinking about whether or not this is something that maybe needs to be documented a little bit more than what was happening in small news articles and local news articles that weren't reaching a wider audience. And then there were always a couple of 1-minute segments on the 10 o'clock news. And so I just reached out to former colleagues, and one of my former colleagues at Richland, told me she was cleaning out her office for the last time. So I rented a camera. I went down there and I recorded all of that. And that was kind of when I realized that, I think there was a possibility to really tell a much bigger story. I wasn't sure what the story was going to be yet, but I knew that I probably if I was going to take this seriously, I probably would need to raise a little bit of money to do it. Especially when I realized how much hard drives cost. I was totally unaware. I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be a really big expense. And I'm terrible at budgeting during the summer, when I'm not being paid. So I set up a Kickstarter, and I was really surprised. I raised about $3,500 And that was enough to rent some stuff. It was enough to get the hard drives. It was enough to have enough gas money to travel all over the state. And so what I did over the next couple of months was I basically sort of went on this solo guerrilla shoot style documentary journey, not by choice necessarily, but because as word started spreading among my former colleagues that I was doing this, like people started emailing me and telling me that there were things I should go to, right? So there was like there was a going away, there was a last call event at one of the campuses, and then a couple weeks later there was the last class ever to happen at UW Fond du Lac was taking place. And so it was sort of like a mad scramble for almost a month, kind of just like whenever someone would respond to me via email or whenever someone would tell me that there was some event that I should go check out, I was basically just packing up a bunch of stuff in my car and driving to those events, as many of them as I could. Um, and as I started doing interviews with people, one of the things that started to stand out was I was noticing that there really is a story here, and it's the story of the Wisconsin idea. This this idea that everybody in the state of Wisconsin should have access to affordable higher education, and how that was being damaged, not just by political attacks, but also by just this. It started to feel like a lot of people were sort of just giving up and just assuming that because high school enrollment was going down, that we had to start closing campuses and stuff. And nobody was really, I think a lot of people were losing sight of the fact that there were real people who were being harmed here. And there were kids, especially young teenagers, who were losing opportunities. And I was noticing this, especially when I was interviewing the students who were attending these campuses, and I was seeing just how profound the impact was. And so at that point, I kind of knew at that point that I had to sort of like, I had to go into, I had to go into like, I had to go into like crank it up to 11 basically. I realized like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I've got a bunch of footage. I've been shooting stuff. I took a pause. I took an editing class so I could actually like learn how to edit as good as I could possibly do this. And then I started editing stuff and I started sort of putting together the story. Um, and yeah, that was kind of like, that was sort of how I approached it early on as the project was developing.
This thing does not play like a person who just learned how to edit. You
It
did a very good job of like stringing this story along.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, there's a ton of stuff that was left on the cutting room floor
it's,
for sure. And but yeah, I cannot say enough about how as weird as it sounds, I had to go as I started shooting, I was thinking back to my college career when I took like an intro to photography class
mhm.
and some stuff was coming back. It was kind of funny. It's been 22 years since I took any general education classes, right? But that class, it like stuff would pop up and I'd be like, oh, you know what? I can't do that. Oh, you know what? I got to make sure I'm doing this. So at the very least, I was definitely taking into account what I was learning as I was doing it. Um, and it was really fun. Like I don't I remember times this summer when I would literally be so excited to like jump into like the footage part of it that I was getting up at like 5 a.m. some days and just jumping in, like just making a coffee and sitting with the dog and editing for like 5 straight hours. It was a really cool experience.
Yeah, sorry, I had like several ideas here. I like what you said a little earlier about how, and I hear this all the time, getting into a documentary and not knowing what the story was, and then the more you delve into it, the more the story comes to you. To me, I mean, that makes a good documentary to begin with. Because you didn't have a preconceived notion of, here, this is what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
You were capturing something that was going on. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, it was like you know, it it was obvious right away, like the human impact of what those closures were doing. But it wasn't until I started like watching the interviews one after the other that I started to see that there were common threads that were occurring, And one of the things I was trying to be really cognizant of was, this is their story, it's not necessarily my story. And so I tried to be really respectful of that, especially, because I was like, I had a couple of people who I had talked to who were, they were like, well, if you want me to say something else, we can do another interview. And I was like, I think what you said in the moment is so much more important because there were people who were just speaking their heart, right? And I think that came through a lot, especially with the students. I was
Yeah,
I was just so proud of how I was so impressed with how the students they were just so honest, and it was really inspiring to hear that from them.
yeah, yeah. One could make the argument that this film festival wouldn't exist if it weren't for a 2-year college. I
Oh,
got my start at a 2-year UW Fox Valley.
right
Uh,
on.
and I honestly, out of high school, I had no intention of going to school.
Yeah,
I joined the military. I got the GI Bill. So I
sure.
went, well, I guess I should probably use this. And
Yeah,
I went down to school and just kind of, going to take some core classes, figure out what I'm doing with my life.
yeah.
And I found out that they had TV classes. And
Oh, okay.
until I started taking some of those TV classes as electives, it was never even, this has always been my drive in life was movies and,
Mm,
TV, music, and like all that stuff was like, that's what, but I didn't know how to approach it.
yeah,
When I started
I
taking these courses at this 2-year college, all of a sudden it just kind of opened up for me. This is what I'm going to do. So, yeah, it's very
yeah.
important for that kind of thing. And there's thousands and thousands of people out there that have the same story as me that like out of high school didn't know what to do. And I think one of your subjects in the movie actually said that was that they didn't know, the college was just a way to get them to figure out what they're going to do. And a 4-year college was not on the radar.
No, yeah, and that's like, that's one of the really important parts I think that stood out to me was I think a lot of people just assume that students sort of like just decide they're going to go to one of the 2-year campuses. And in reality, it's a lot of work basically reaching out to students and like convincing students, hey, you can come here and you can do this. And there's not a lot of pressure because it's very affordable and it's not a giant 300-person lecture hall. So, you feel a little more comfortable. And I think that gets lost, when I'm reading like the news reports of, when people are trying to justify closing the campuses in Wisconsin, they're always saying the same thing, which is that like enrollments are like high school enrollment is going down. But that doesn't explain the drop in enrollment at those 2-year campuses. And that to me was something that seemed really important because I don't know if these campuses continue to close, I don't know who's going to be reaching out to that next generation of students who will benefit from college and would like college, but don't necessarily think they're college material, right? Because they don't see themselves at a 4-year university right away. So I'm hoping the documentary kind of gets through to that population as well.
Yeah, I believe so. It definitely hit for me and as a memory, but like
For sure.
I think I was thinking that like, I definitely want my son to see this movie because he's a sophomore and he's going to be started thinking about what am I going to do after high school.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the advantages too of a 2-year program for somebody like myself, my grades were not good enough in high school to get into a
Yeah.
4 year. And particularly in classes I struggled with, like math. At the 2 year, I had a lot of individual help, and you had a math lab that you could go into every day and work with a
Mm.
professor. You know, it really was a place where the professor knew each of the students by name, and
Oh yeah.
I think because of that helped as your brain is developing as a young adult. I think just became crucial to any one of us succeeding. And ultimately, I did also go on and get a 4 year degree in communications. Would not have happened if it wasn't for the 2 year program at UW Manitowoc, and very
Uh-huh.
grateful for that opportunity. Because again, if you're a struggling high school student, how are you going to get into that 4 year?
Yeah.
And when you show your GPA from high school,
Yeah.
You convince yourself that, no, I'm just not college material.
Yep.
And
Yeah, that's one of the, that's one of the hardest things we do the first semester of, like on the Rock campus, for example, the first semester, one of the biggest challenges I have is basically how do I how do I develop lesson plans that help these students realize that it's okay to not get it at first because you're going to learn it, right? Because a lot of students come in thinking that they're a certain level of smartness and they can never be smarter. And so that I worry about that because those particular students who don't believe that they can become smarter, I don't think that they're going to go to a 4 year campus, right? And so I wonder what's going to happen to them if the 2 year campus is closed. But it's a huge challenge. We're not always successful, but I think the 2 year campuses are better at it because we can do the smaller one-to-one stuff. Um, and they get it, like students get it after a couple of semesters, when they see progress, it's so valuable to give them a chance to look back on their first couple of weeks as, college students and just realize, holy crap, I have come a long way, you know. That's one of the best parts of the job, honestly.
right.
how has the film been received at other festivals? Is it
Um, we haven't done any festivals yet, but I did show it. I promised my Kickstarters I would do a sort of like a showing. So we did a showing in Milwaukee for the Kickstarter people. A couple of libraries have shown it in their communities, and that's gone really well. Um, we're thinking maybe in the spring we might try to get a wider audience after we do some film festivals and stuff. Um, Generally, the thing that I've heard after each of these viewings is at least one or two people will come up and say, "What can we do now?" Right? What can we do next? And I think that's really inspiring because it means it's kind of the message is resonating, which is cool. And there is stuff that people can do. Like I think one thing we could definitely do more of in the spring is maybe do some more showings and try to get more public interest. And then maybe after the film festivals are done, maybe reach. I've made a couple of contacts with people who do what is it called? Public access channels on cable. Um, and they were thinking of maybe sort of putting something together. So yeah, the response has been really good. I always worry a little bit about the section where I get a little political because I don't necessarily want to upset people, but
Right.
I don't know if I can
Not
I don't think I
necessarily.
can divorce it. It's just like we have to talk about the budget cuts. There's no other way to get around it.
Yeah.
Um, and it makes it tough, but it makes for good discussions, because I mean the budget has been cut so many times, like we're at a point where we can kind of see the impact of it now. And so it's worth doing a little retrospection, I hope, maybe a little inward thinking, perhaps, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm the least political person you'll ever talk to. But,
Yeah.
we are recording this on election day.
I know, right? Yeah.
It is,
So
I mean,
true.
I don't know, who knows when we're going to show this, but like,
Yeah.
um, today is election day and it's on everybody's minds that like,
It's true.
no matter what level of the offices you're talking about, you got to find people that want to be in these positions that believe in education. And it's
Yeah.
not just education, but reaching out to the ones that don't feel that they should go to college.
Yeah. Yeah. And I worried, I started to worry. This wasn't on my radar as much as as I was filming it. But then when I started like diving into Premiere Pro and doing all of the editing and stuff over weeks, I started to notice that like whenever I was actually getting any sort of response or doing any reading up on how people are perceiving the closures, it was pretty amazing to see how much people are relying on sort of like a business metaphor for education. And it started to get more and more infuriating because um, it, I think it does the 2-year campuses a disservice to treat them as sort of like a business that is losing money, when in reality, the budget was cut so much that they essentially had to cut all of their advertising to the point that people didn't even know that they were around. And when you're reaching a population of students who don't think about college, you have to reach out to them. You can't just assume they're going to find you, you know. It's not like when a student, when a kid from Yep. There goes my dog. When a kid from when a kid from anywhere in Wisconsin wants to go to UW-Madison, they don't need UW-Madison reaching out to them. You just go to the website and you apply and hope and you cross your fingers, right? But the 2-year campuses aren't like that. So yeah, that business metaphor really started to make me sick to my stomach. I don't like hearing about I like it when we talk about education as an educational service, you know.
Well, I think the message and just the film in general is just really well done, and I think it's really going to positively impact a lot of people who are coming to see it, and
Thank
hopefully
you.
start a
Yeah.
lot of those important conversations if they're not already happening.
Yeah, I'm really excited to go up to Door County. I'm pumped. This is going to be great. My mom is coming. My mom, just so you know, my mom, she's going to show up. I mean, she's going to be there for the whole thing. She might talk during the movie because she's very vocal. But she's making a whole weekend of it. She's like, I'm camping. I got a plan. I was like, okay. So
Oh, I can't wait to meet
That's so
her.
awesome.
yeah, it'll be great.
We do have a really amazing event coming together. We met with the board
Cool.
last week and we're talking through a number of things, and I think it's going to be something special.
Great. That sounds awesome. I'm really excited.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that we're doing is we've dropped the short from our title. We are a full-fledged film festival now.
Yeah.
For years it was always Door County Short Film Festival, but
Yeah.
I felt like maybe somebody like yourself wouldn't have thought to submit, because well, my film was in the short, and we were showing features all along, just
Yeah.
as like like a one feature, the rest shorts. So
Right.
we're really excited to show more features, more like mid features. There's a
Yeah.
couple of them that are around the 45-minute mark that we'll be showing this year.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Yeah,
So
that's really neat because like some of them, sometimes it's hard to find a place for those. So I mean, I
mhm.
think that's really cool. That's
And
gonna
it was
be
hard
that's
for me to set this up. Like, oh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that movie, but it's like 45 minutes long. I don't know.
yeah,
Whereas a feature film, I can be like, well, if that's a standalone, yeah, we can definitely do that. So
right.
it really just kind of free things up. And I don't know, your film is really going to fit into a lot of what we do here. So
Cool.
I, I anticipate it being quite well received.
That's great. Yeah, I'm super excited. I can't wait, man.
I'm planning on wearing my UW Manitowoc basketball jersey
Oh, you totally should.
to the
You
screen.
absolutely should.
Go Blue Devils. Yeah.
Everybody I interviewed had at least one shirt that had their 2-year college. It's funny. Like it's part of the pride of it, you know? Like you
Yeah.
have to do it. Yeah.
You never get rid of it. It's like it's something that I hang on to. It's like
Yeah.
other clothes have come and gone, but I've always kept my UW Manitowoc. And I didn't even play basketball, but I just got a jersey. And
Oh, that's okay. That's
I had
great.
for like
Yeah.
student spirit day or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, this is exciting. So yeah, I mean, you got into this because you saw a story that needed to be told. But filmmaking isn't in your background. Is this something will you do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. I'm kind of I was working with a director because I had a screenplay, and I was working with him for about a year, and he kind of dropped off the face of the earth because he got a really good job, and there was no bad blood between us. I just told him like I'm gonna keep going. And so I found another director who was interested. So we might move forward with a feature in the next year, possibly. But that's mainly screenwriting because that's my background. I'm a writer by trade.
Okay.
Uh,
Good.
I would like to, now that a couple more the closures have been announced, I would like to like interview people. I would like to like keep some more going, but it gets a little tough because I try to be like, you got to be like really cognizant of their employment situation. And so if they're in the middle of looking for a new job, I don't want to like, because a lot of people have a lot of things they want to say, but they don't want to say them, in
Right.
front of the camera. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think I should like, based on the feedback I'm getting, I think I should definitely keep renting a camera and keep visiting people. I think that's going to be my goal for the next year.
Yeah, that's good. Because a story like this it doesn't end. So yeah, if you can enhance either the film or anything that can be addition to, like it just
Yeah.
keep the conversation happening, just like you're saying. Like the more we talk about this, the more people will listen to what's happening here and
Yep.
how
That's my
important this
thought.
is.
Yep. That's my thought too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
These are historic times in so many ways, not to be cliche, but it really
Yeah.
to be capturing it in real time as it's happening is a very significant thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
All right. Well, we're coming up on our time here, so it was great to talk with you.
Yeah.
Really
Thank you.
excited to hear that you're coming.
Oh yeah.
And we'll let you know any developments that happen that you should know about with the festival.
Okay.
But we
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
forward
Expect
to
the
meeting
entire
you.
Brosky family. We're all coming.
We can't wait to meet your mom.
Yep. You'll like
Sounds
her.
like the kind of
She's
person
excited.
I want at the festival, because
Yep.
it's an experience,
Oh yeah.
and she sounds like she enjoys it. So
Oh yeah. She loves film festivals. She's a part of the Milwaukee Film Festival. So
great.
my dad love it. Yeah. They love going to film festivals.
Yeah.
So we're excited.
Anyway, great to talk with you. I look
Yep.
forward to talking more in February.
And
Okay.
once again, a huge shout out and thank you to our sponsors of Ecology Sports here in Sister Bay, and of course Base Camp for hosting us today. And again, thank you so much for sponsoring this festival.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.